Okay, this is an updated video for the 2016 Unit 2 review sheet. So this is for classes 803 and 806. Because the review sheet video I had from last year doesn't match exactly. It's pretty close. A lot of the questions are the same, but we changed some of them. This is going to be quick. I'm definitely going to go through quick through 1 through 20. I'll spend time on the ones I think you need it, and most of them you don't. So let's just get going. Number 1, draw a graph that represents a quantity decreasing at a steady rate. Steady rate, meaning the slope should always be the same, meaning it should be a straight line. So here's a graph, and decreasing at a steady rate, just make sure it's going down. Increasing at a steady rate, just make sure it's going up to the right, like a positive slope. So all that matters is that the lines are straight. Number 2, there's no question. I see that there's a question mark, but no question. This will be the same graph from the test. Just make sure you understand each part of the graph, meaning what the y-intercept represents and what the slope represents. So the y-intercept is the starting point. You can see that it's right here at 32. So that tells you that it is 32 degrees Fahrenheit when the Celsius is 0. That's what the y-intercept is. The slope, remember you're comparing the y-axis to the x-axis, so as you can see that as the x-axis increases, the y-axis increases. Now just put that into words. So as Celsius increases, Fahrenheit increases. And the slope tells you exactly how much it's increasing, but for the purposes of this question, you just need to know in general what is going on in that graph. Number 3, which line represents the best fit? So we just draw a trend line. If you can identify what's a good line of best fit, what's not, you're good. Remember that line of best fit has to be a straight line that goes through the middle of as much of the points as possible. It does not need to start at the origin. Notice I'm not starting down here, because if I tried to, I don't think that would fit the data very well. And it does not need to start at the first point. Don't force it to. Just draw a straight line, take your ruler, line it up, draw a straight line through the middle of the points, and you're fine. Number 3, you know the slope is the number in front of the x, and the y-intercept is the number that's by itself. Just be careful with your signs. Positive 1/3, -5, so it's big. Number 5, find the slope. You need to use the slope formula. There's no other way to do this. You need to know the slope formula, and you need to know how to use it. That's the slope formula. Label your points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and then just plug them in. Substitute in 9 minus 7 over 3 minus -3 equals 2/6, and you need to make sure you reduce fractions. Your calculators do that for you. You should know how to do that at this point. Number 6, y equals mx plus b. Plug in the slope where the m is, the y-intercept where the b is. Y equals 4x minus 2. Number 7, bicycle club went on a 6-hour ride. The graph below shows the relationship between the number of hours spent on the trails and the number of miles traveled. So you can see from 0 to 3, from 0 hours to 3 hours, they traveled what looks to be about 32 miles. So they're traveling. And then what happens here? Well, the distance isn't changing anymore. So from 3 hours to 4 hours, which is, again, right here, the distance stays exactly the same. It stays at 32 for that whole hour. So what happened? They stopped, or they took a break. Something like that. They stopped, they took a break, they didn't move, they didn't change distance. Now remember, this is not a hill. They're not going uphill. Oh, now they're riding straight and uphill again. It's not a hill. This represents how much distance they traveled. There might have been no hills involved at all. Number 8, for which interval, so which time period, interval means time period, is the function decreasing and linear. Decreasing means down and to the right, linear means a straight line. So from here to here, looks like it's decreasing, and it looks linear, so that would be from here to here. So that's from 15 to 40, so that's C. Find the slope and the y-intercept. It needs to be in the form y equals mx plus b. So We want to get the y by itself, so do minus 3x on both sides. 5y equals 10 minus 3x. Then divide everything by 5. Then you get y equals 2 minus 3 over 5x. So the slope is negative 3 over 5. The y-intercept is 2. Number 10, here's a scatter plot. What kind of association? I would say there is no association because all those points are scattered randomly about the graph. I can't draw a line through the middle of it and say there's a positive association. Can't draw any kind of line because they're all scattered all over. So you guys know that. There's no association. There's no linear, there's no nonlinear, there's no association at all. There's no pattern with the data. Number 11, find the equation of the line. So remember, y equals mx plus b. So you need to find a slope and you need to find a y-intercept. To find the slope, use the formula. So n equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Just pick any 2 points you want. I could pick these two and do x1, x2, y1, y2. But I'm not going to pick those because that's all negative numbers and I don't want to deal with negative numbers. So I'm going to pick these two. x1, y1, x2, y2. 28 minus negative 2 over 6 minus 0 is 30 over 6, and the slope is 5. The y-intercept, I've made you write this down many times, the y-intercept is when the x value is 0. Oh, look at that. So there's your y-intercept. So the y-intercept is negative 2. You need to write it as the equation of the line, so y equals 5x minus 2. Number 12, the graph picture below Sandy's water dish. So I can see that the y-axis is the amount of water, the x-axis is the number of seconds. So you can see that from 0 to 15 seconds, the water didn't change, so nothing's happening. From 15 to 30 seconds, the water went down. So I think we can assume that Sandy, the dog, has drank some water. Then from 30 to 60 seconds, the water stays the same again. So Sandy's not drinking anymore because the water is staying the same. From 60 to 75, it looks like he's drinking again, and it looks like he's drinking even faster than before because the line's going down quicker, it's steeper. 75 to 90, not drinking because the water amount is not changing. And then from 90 to 105, he's drinking again because it went down. So what is one possible interpretation of the section of the graph from 30 to 60 seconds? Sandy was drinking the water. No, because it's not changing. Sandy stopped drinking the water to investigate a noise. That looks good. Sandy tipped the bowl of water over, making a mess. Well, then the amount of water would change. It would have went down drastically. So definitely didn't do that. And the owner filled up the water bowl. Well, then the line would have went up. So that's not it either. 13. Find the equation. Again, you need a slope and a y-intercept. Well, you know the y-intercept. This is where it crosses the y-axis. So we know that p equals 2. To find the slope, you can either do rise over run or the slope formula. I'm going to do rise over run. So up, 1, 2, 3. Over, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the slope is 3 over 4. So my equation is 3 over 4x plus 2. Number 14, what can you conclude about the graph of a line given the equation y equals negative 5x? Well, just by looking at that, I know there's a negative slope, and I know that there is no y-intercept. The plus b part isn't there. So I know that that's really plus 0, if that helps you. The line has a slope of 5, wrong, so it's negative 5. The line has a y-intercept of 0, negative 5, no, that's the slope. The line passes through the origin, perfect. No y-intercept, it goes through the origin. Number 15, the cost to rent the boat includes an initial fee. You know that that is your y-intercept of $9 plus $6.55 per hour. There's your slope. So which equation shows that? Well, that would be the 6.5x plus 9. The number in front of the x is the slope. The number by itself is y-intercept. The graph below models the cost of renting a car. No, that's not true. That must be an old question. So the graph clearly shows how many gallons are in a tank of gas. and how many miles you've driven. So just looking at the graph, I can see that the more miles you drive, the less gas that's in it, which makes perfect sense because as you drive, you use gas. So what is the initial fee? The initial fee is where the graph starts on the y-axis, so that's 15. So there or there, so cross out B or C. And the cost per hour, well, it should be negative. I guess we forgot to change the choices. But you can see that it's going down 1 over 25. So it's negative 1 over 25. So none of these answers match up. This one says 25, so we'll go with that. But as long as you can identify the slope of the y-intercept from the graph, you know what you're doing. So identify the correlation from each. This one has no association or correlation. This one has 0 because it's just a straight line. Remember that's 0 slope. This one is negative, and this one is positive. Which point in the scatter plot appears to be the outlier? Well, looking at my line of spin, all my points, this is the only one that's like away from the line. It's not even that far away, but if they're asking for an outlier, that's it. So I would say it's the 18th week paycheck. That's about $165, so choice D. Number 19, which graph shows a function in which the rate of change and the y-intercept are both positive? Well, if a y-intercept is positive, that means it's starting above the origin. So this one looks negative. This is 0. This is 0. This is the only answer that makes sense. Number 20, which equation represents the line in the graph? Well, you need a slope, you need a y-intercept. So the y-intercept is 5. So we all have 5, so that doesn't help us. So you need to just find the slope. It's a negative slope. So right away, you can cross off A and D because it's a negative slope. And then you just have to do the rise over run. Down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. So that would be B. So those would be the 20 multiple choice questions. 21, a reporter collected data on why the current market value in dollars of a certain motorcycle spelled incorrectly, but that's okay. For various years X, after it had been purchased new, the equation was fit to this. The equation below was fit to the data. So this is the equation that represents the current market value of a motorcycle. What does the slope of the graph represent? Well, the slope is negative 500. So we're talking about the current market value of a motorcycle. The slope always tells you how something is changing. So what does the slope represent? How much money the motorcycle is decreasing. And now here's the important part. Each year or per year. You need that sentence because it's a slope. X is the number of years, various years X. So you need to write each year, per year. You also could have wrote the motorcycle drops in value $500 each year. You could have been specific. What does the y-intercept represent? Well, the y-intercept is $10,000. We're talking about a motorcycle. The y-intercept is another word for initial value or starting point. So you can say that the y-intercept is the initial value of the motorcycle, and that's it. So expect a question that looks like this. 22, Tim is selling tickets to a school sporting event to raise money for his club. He put some extra money in the box before he began. Well, if you put something in a box before he begins, which part of an equation is that? Remember the starting point, the initial value, that's the y-intercept. As he sells tickets, he records the number of tickets he has sold and the total amount of money in the box. Here's the data, it's in the chart. Assuming all the tickets are the same price, write an equation. So for an equation, you need two things. You need a slope, and then you need the y-intercept. Unfortunately, there is no y-intercept given to us. I'm looking at the table. I don't see a y-intercept. Remember that the y-intercept is when the x is 0. They don't give us that. What I can do is figure out the slope. The slope, I can use the formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So it'll be 146.25 minus 108.75 over 13 minus 7. So that equals 37.5 over 6, which equals 6.25. It's okay that it's a decimal here because we're talking about money. So since we're talking about total money, it's okay that we have this decimal. Now, we can't figure out the y-intercept, so we cannot use y equals mx plus b. We cannot use that. We have to use the other equation, y minus y1 equals n parentheses x minus x1. That's called the point slope form of a line. For that equation, we need a point and a slope. We know the slope, that's 625, and we have 3 different points, so just pick one of them. I'm going to pick 7 and 108.75. So y minus 108.75 equals 6.25 parentheses x minus 7. So if they ask you for an equation, you can stop right there. That is an equation. You're done. Now, if they ask it for the slope-intercept form, then you need to distribute and get the y by itself. So I'm going to put a box around this just so you know that we could be done here. But if I was going to continue, I would do y minus 108.75 equals 6.25x minus 43.75, all over the distribute. Then add 108.75 to both sides, and you get y equals 6.25x plus 65. That is another equation you could have used. So either of those are correct. There is a part B. It says, looking at your equation, how much money was initially in the box. So initially in the box, you need the y-intercept. So the answer to part B, which is on the next page, is $65. So you needed to find the y-intercept. There is another way to do this question that I want you to be aware of. So let me extend this page. A lot of you don't remember the point slope formula, and you remember y equals mx plus b. The problem is we don't know what b is, but we have colors, we know what the slope is, and we definitely have a y value and an x value. So I can take the point 7, 108.75, that could be my x and my y, and I know that the slope is 6.25. So I can still use this equation. So I'm taking the slope-intercept form, and I'm just plugging in the information I know. I do not know b, so that's just going to stay as the letter b. So 108.75, because that's my y value, equals 6.25 times 7. That's the slope. That's the the x value, plus b. So 108.75 equals $43.75 plus b. Now to figure out b, I just have to subtract 43.75 from both sides. And that'll give me 65 equals b. So now I know what the initial value is, and now I can rewrite my equation. Y equals 6.25x plus 65. Now I know what b is. So you could do it that way as well. Look, if you're being honest with yourself, if this question just confused you, write down what I wrote down, then read the question again and do it again, then read the question again and do it again, then try to put all the work aside, try not to look at it, and try to do it again without looking at anything. See if you can do it by yourself. Just keep writing it until you can repeat the steps. At this point, we're at the end of the unit. If this question confuses you, learn how to do this question, and we'll try to get you caught up on the concept next year. We'll have time, we'll catch you up, but you have a test coming up, so you need to do what's best for you. So if the question confuses you, any question, just keep doing it over and over again until it makes sense, or at least until you can do it. Number 23, you need to graph, you need to find the slope, you need to find the y-intercept. It needs to be in y equals mx plus b form. So minus 6x on both sides. And you get 2y equals 10 minus 6x. Divide everything by 2. You get y equals 5 minus 3x. So the slope is negative 3 and the y-intercept is 5. So on a graph, you start at the y-intercept, which is 5. And then the slope tells you which way to draw your line. So I can make this into a fraction. Negative 3 over 1, so that's down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1. Notice I'm always going to the right. then 3 over 1, and then if I want, I can draw a point the other way. I get out a ruler, I draw a straight line that's going to be better than mine, and then you arrows and label the line. Y equals negative 3x plus 5, or whatever you want to write there. If you don't label the line, you will not lose points. You will lose points if you don't draw arrows. So you need to have arrows. Part C, create an equation that's parallel to that. If you check your summary sheets, if you check your notes, you'll see parallel lines have the same slope. So you just need to write the equation of a line that has a slope of negative 3. So y equals negative 3x, that works. Y equals negative 3x plus 10, that works. As long as the slope is negative 3 and the y-intercept is anything other than 5, you're fine. 24, you need to put the equation in point-slope form. Notice they give you point-slope form. They were very nice. And by they, I mean me. I was very nice. Now, remember question 22, where if you didn't remember y equals mx plus b, or you realized that you couldn't use that there is another option for you. Well, look at number 24. Here it is. You don't have to memorize it. It's given to you. So you should be looking around your test, trying to figure things out. The first thing you need to do is figure out the slope of this line. Now, to figure out the slope, and you need to show all work, you need to use the slope formula. But if you don't remember the slope formula, hey, look, there's a graph. Why don't you just graph those lines and do rise over run, which you guys are all very good at. So let's plug it in. 8 minus 5 over 6 minus 5 is 3 over 1, or just 3. And now I can go right into the slope-intercept form of the line. So y minus 5 equals 3, parentheses x minus 5. Or if you chose to do the other point, y minus 8 equals 3, parentheses x minus 6. Whichever one you chose to do, they want the answer in slope-intercept form, so you need to get the y by itself. So distribute, y minus 5 equals 3x minus 15. Add 5 to both sides, y equals 3x minus 10. If you did the other equation, it would be y minus 8 equals 3x minus 18. Add 8 to both sides, y equals 3x minus 10. Same equation. And that's it. That's the whole test. So, if you have any questions at this point, shoot me an email, because if you're watching this, it's the night before the test. So shoot me an email, not on PupilPath. If you have a question, the two best ways to reach me are my email, Mr. Zuckerbrow, all one word, all lowercase letters, Mr. Zuckerbrow at gmail.com. Or Remind. Remind, if it's after a certain time, will not come to me because it's after my office hours, they call them. So use this email. It will go to my phone, mrzuckerbrow@gmail.com. You're coming in tomorrow, Tuesday. I'm going to answer any last minute questions, and then we're starting because you're getting a double period, and that is it. Good luck.